let's say when it comes to developers in general, it depends on what project they are working on and what kind of thing they are working on. But one thing we can definitely agree in general is generally projects are bigger. It's not something you can finish in weeks. Sometimes it take months, possibly, and they since they are so big, it is very important for us to organize how to go with the process, maybe from ideation phase, building phase, deploying phase, checking if things are working right or wrong. Why do you think, first of all, in your, in both of your understanding, how much is organizing things from start matters, and then what kind of best practices in your again perspectives can anyone incorporate who is facing issues in organizing maybe the projects and development part in general? So let's start with Brian.
You started with the easy questions. So it's powerfully subjective now to basically come to realize, and you probably need to look at the people that you're working with, or if you're just working with yourself, be introspective or talk to yourself, preferably not in a crowded room. That would be weird. But find the right way that everyone likes to work. Like some people like to use the Jiras and all the project management tools. They're all basically the same. You can just pick whatever brand you want. And some people prefer Excel. Some people don't like to use any of that, and almost kind of view programming a bit like sculpting in a way, where you're kind of like discovering it as you're going along and just always refactor and reform. So definitely project management and having things organized can help you, but they can also be a crutch if you take them too far. And going micro on your tasks can actually slow you down quite a bit. So I like having like the big picture stuff written down, and you just keep that in mind. But if you need to kind of like go down to like the feature or even smaller than that, like I don't need a Jira ticket to say that this button needs to be blue, for example. Like that's probably too much. Like you can just say, hey, Jonathan, make the button blue. Okay, cool. Let's go. That level of meta is probably excessive. So really the most important tool, I guess, is actually just talking to your team members and figuring out how you work best. And don't be married to any of these tools. Like feel free to change or do whatever. Like I found, honestly, the best tool, as I joked about earlier, is paper. And just the simple act of just writing down what you need to do on paper and doing it every day and crossing it off is enough to kind of get it attached in your memory and know what I can actually write down my to-do list, and then I never need to look at it again because I wrote it down. If I punch it into a project management system and then close the window and go somewhere else, it's like, it's gone. It's ephemeral. I don't really see it anymore. Paper is always next to me, except if my dog or child steals it and decides to draw tractors all over it. But that's another story. But yeah, it's just listen to the people that you work with and find common ground.
Got it. Thanks for the perspective, Brian. Jonathan, over to you. What's your perspective on this?
I feel like I'm not a good person to ask about like team stuff because generally I've done most of my development on my own. I think when I started writing for, when I was writing for RayWenderlich.com, and still, I think that's been my biggest experience, like working with a team to whether produce an article or produce a book. And for listeners who didn't know, like Brian was the head over all the Flutter stuff. And also he was on my team for writing the Dart Apprentice book. And so just working with other people, it taught me a lot of value in working with teams, just because often if I'm working by myself, I'll just go with whatever I think is best. But then when you're on a team, people point out, hey, this isn't so great, or what if you did this a little better? And so that actually improved my articles, improved the book, and so that was a big learning experience for me.
Okay.
For programming, like making apps, also I've done that just mostly on my own. But in the last year or so, I've had some experience working on a team, and that's been a lot of trial and error. One example is like I had a like an audio control thing on GitHub, and so I just was making it myself. But then someone wanted to contribute, and he was saying all these good ideas, so I let him just contribute a whole bunch of code. But then I had misunderstood his whole intent, and so he had written all this code, and then at the very end, I was like, "Oh, that's not exactly what I wanted for it," and I felt really bad because I was going to have all this code, and I feel like if I had known better about how to work on a team, we could have figured out exactly what he's talking about a little bit better. So that's definitely still an area I'm growing in.
Okay, so coming to the team part and management part in general, unlike Brian and more like Jonathan, I have been a person who has been, even I can say I have been working in teams, but it has been for me that the team synchronicity has not been good. It's not that I'm not doing very well here, but right now, but I had situations wherein maybe I'm running fast, I'm moving fast, and they are not moving fast, or similar situations like this. So mostly what has happened with me is, even if I'm in team or if I'm alone, either way is same. I work with them, but I'm the person who kind of stays alone in doing things. So it's less like teamwork, it's more like alone work or freelancing work. But I have been trying my ways to find out how to work with the team. I with working at Ray Vanderlick, or working at my own startup, or even in past when I was managing my own clubs in colleges and all, and working with friends in general. So what I have seen is a transition from me working with teams, which I was not able to do well, and sufficiently. I'll say it's not that I was not able to contribute enough, but it's a feeling. It's a way how you get your ideas in sync with the team, how you get and decide how to get the work done in team, things like that, which matters a lot. Like, so going on that stage, things, learning those aspects myself. But I'll say Brian is because Brian has been working into teams multiple times in past, so he has much more experience than Jonathan and me. So yes. So yeah. So yeah, Brian,
team
do
is
you
different.
want to say?
Yeah, every team is different though. Like the experience you have working in, like I worked in like a giant enterprise team of 40,000 employees spread around multiple buildings and all across the country, and that how the bureaucracy and the politics that come out naturally from that, it makes writing code almost a political action, which is very strange. Or you worked in very small startups where everyone is trying to work as fast as possible before they run out of money, which creates a different kind of environment. Or more established medium businesses where it's not like, it's basically like, yeah, come down to, there is no golden answer to say this is how you build software. It's always different at every stage, and you just have to be willing to listen and be flexible. And if you are got like that enterprise employee mindset where you're just like one very small piece in that team of 40,000 plus people, then you just like wait for your requirements to come down with these big, thick waterfall type environments. You just do your little thing and then pass it down the pipe. That's not going to fly at a startup. You can't think like that. So it's just,
Yeah,
always be open to learning and sharing and being okay that the only constant in the world is change.
Yeah, these are two nice points to look into when you are working in a team. Apart from it, one more thing that I have realized while working in teams in general, And this is just my limited understanding of teamwork. And let me know what your opinion, what both of your opinions are on this part. Is you don't have to follow a specific procedure always. What you really need to look into is what your team is saying, what is the requirement of the hour. Sometimes what happens is we are too much into organization that even, let's say, like Brian mentioned, if he has to make a change in the button, change it from maybe brown to blue, putting up a Trello card and things like that is not required. So it's in common understanding in the team. It's a flexible way of working, that this is how we should follow, rather than this is how we actually follow, things like that. So it's project dependent, it's team dependent, it's situation dependent. You don't try to constrain yourself that you need to follow this way. You rather try to be very open and free on whatever way you have to go forward in team to make the work done rightly. So that's
flexible on the team. One thing I've appreciated about working at Rip Wunderlich and now Codeco is just I don't know if every team's like this, but the teams I've been on, like how flexible people have been. Like sometimes I'll say, well, this isn't quite according to guidelines, but what if we do it a little bit different? And a lot of times they'll say, yeah, go for it. Or sometimes they'll say, well, actually, there's more information you didn't know. And so, oh, okay. So I've just appreciated the flexibility of my teams that I've been on, but I can't speak to, again, I don't have a lot of experience on teams, but I do like flexibility.